welcome to the Quantum Mogul podcast. I'm the co-founder of Quantum Mogul, Jasmine Suryarachi with
Donald Kelleher.
And we are absolutely honored, thrilled, and delighted to have Bob Dameron on with us today as our special guest. He is somebody who has always provided me with really lovely comments and insights, and is someone who is equally passionate about quantum. And he is a huge leading voice, specifically when it comes to quantum and finance. So welcome to the show today, Bob.
Well, thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to tell my story and tell the multiverse story.
Yeah, we're so excited to share about Bob and how he is, really spearheading a lot of pioneering work at Multiverse. So Bob is a former CEO in financial services and tech who drives revenue, results, and innovation. His past assignments have included senior executive positions at Toronto Stock Exchange, the Ontario Teachers Group Investment Funds, Broadband Learning in the US, and Investors Group Financial Services. For the past 3 years and going strong, he has been at Multiverse Computing. And his special sauce is really in helping organizations begin or accelerate their quantum journey. He's able to help using plain business language with a slight tech accent. He's really able to help you, chart your roadmap. So, Bob, we'd love to hear about what drew you to quantum. You have an incredibly rich background in financial services. Our audience would love to hear a bit about your career, your beautiful career highlights up until now, and what really made you shift into the quantum space, and what made you so passionate about joining forces with Multiverse Computing.
Yeah, it's a thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm blushing, but anyway, it was rather happenstance. I was helping. I'd come back from the States, did my turnaround as a CEO, and thought, how can I be of value given my experience? And rather than try to look for a CEO job, I started helping early tech companies who, while they may be technically savvy, didn't have any or very few business skills. So everything from even the most basics of governance to how to raise money, how to put together a pitch deck to get a client. But just build it and they will come does not work. You need to be able to help your market understand your value proposition in the form of benefits as opposed to features. So I did a lot of coaching with a bunch of different companies. I would go to events, I would hear things. I was part of a number of different incubator organizations. And at an event I was at just before COVID, literally weeks before they did a full shutdown, I ran into this young gentleman by the name of Dr. Sam Mogul. Didn't know who he was. It was after the event itself. We were all, networking afterwards. And he looked he was new to Canada, so he didn't know anybody. So I walked over to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Bob Dameron, and who are you and what brings you here?" Standard stuff, right? And he said, "Well, I'm Sam Mogul, and I'm with a company called Multiverse Computing." I said, "Interesting. What do you guys do?" He said, "Well, we're quantum and quantum-inspired software development companies." Well, my eyes glazed over, and I thought, "What the heck is that?" and I said, "Well, okay, I don't know anything about quantum. Can you tell me in 30 seconds what's your value proposition? Like, why should people care?" He told me. I went, "Okay, let me get this straight. You already have clients," and he mentioned BBVA and Bankia and others. I said, "Well, how did that happen?" And he said, "Well, with working in this not-for-profit with my current co-founders, and we'd just done a paper on where could quantum have the most value now." And that was in 2018-ish, end of 2018. This is now early 2019. And a couple of the banks in Europe saw the paper and said, "Hey, we think you're onto something. Come and talk to us." So they had these conversations. They did a proof of concept, and they went, "It works. Holy smoke." So I said, well, this is really interesting. So why are you in Canada? And he goes, well, we've just set up a Toronto office. We've just been through the Creative Destruction Lab program at U of T, and now I'm setting up a Toronto branch and trying to, hire some people and introduce ourselves to the banks. I said, well, if you're brand new and you're from Paris, working for a Spanish company, you probably don't know anybody in financial services in Canada or, for that matter, the United States. He goes, no. I said, I do. I get you in anywhere you want to go. Where do you want to go? He said, the banks. I said, I know them all. What level do you want? I can get to them, right? If I don't know them directly, I can get to them. And he says, oh, great. So I started doing, part-time stuff because I had four other small companies. They weren't in conflict, but they were in tech. And eventually Sam and I together started getting some big clients. And our first client was the Bank of Canada to explore how cryptocurrencies would work. So through my business background, we able to negotiate a super interesting project with the bank, which is just now wrapping up, and the paper should be out, fingers crossed, this summer. But since then,
it's in the show notes, like if it's a public paper that everyone can
yes,
access.
oh yes, no, it'll be on Archive, which is ARXIV, the Cornell, excuse me, the Cornell portal. But if you just Google Archive, you'll find them. But yeah, it'll be all over LinkedIn too. Trust me. Anybody who wants to follow me on LinkedIn is more than welcome to. And of course, for me, this was our first client in North America, and we've been working with them now for a couple of years, and very exciting what we've done. But I won't get into all the technical details of it because I know we want to keep moving through some of the things you wanted me to talk about. But that was how I came to Multiverse, and I've been loving it because it's exciting to me. I've always been a bit of a techie, but not. I don't go deep. But anything that's going to help do things better, faster, cheaper, I'm always interested.
Amazing. And what you love most about your current role? What are some of the exciting challenges that you're facing now, 3 years into the journey? And where do you feel, because I 1000% am behind you when you say it's really our duty, our obligation to be able to explain to the market, why should you care? What value do we bring? And what are the benefits to you? So what are some of the misconceptions that people have when they're coming to you at Multiverse? And what are some of the amazing thought shifts or paradigm shifts that you're able to help the market achieve in thinking and in thinking about quantum as a solution specifically?
Yeah, it's like any new technology that's very complicated. People are intimidated by it, partly, but they're hearing bits and pieces. They hear quantum is here now, quantum is 10 years away. And so I try to push through all the hype and say, look, this is where it is. This is what's possible. Here's what bleeding edge companies have been doing. There are many leading edge, and followers. Call them early adopters if you want, for the bleeding edge folks. But when you look at some of the big financial firms around the world, Goldman Sachs is probably my favorite. JP Morgan is another one. They have been exploring what quantum can do for them for years. So I would say at least 4 years. And they've created some proprietary solutions that give them a competitive advantage. And so a lot of what I do is education, helping companies start their quantum journey, because I'll get a request out of the blue. We're starting to think about quantum. Could I pick your brain? I said, sure. I had a bank out of the United States very recently just contacted me out of the blue, found my name and said, "Hey, I'm hearing all this stuff about quantum. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't know how to convince my C-suite that we need to pay attention. Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah, not a problem." So helping them begin, how do you begin the quantum journey? How do you convince the C-suite if it's not the C-suite asking me? I mean, I having been a CEO and a board member of both public and private companies, I have no qualms about reaching out to a CEO just to say, if you're not paying attention to this, you need to. And you know,
You're so entrenched in the banking industry. What is the most thing that you see that is concerning them? Is it data?
well, yeah, there's a bunch of things that are important to banks. There's massive oceans of data that they're not leveraging, and they don't know how. Classic computers just can't do it fast enough. There are trading algorithms that are doing a good job, but if you inject some quantum or quantum inspired into that, suddenly, well, in the example of one company, we improved their foreign exchange trading profits by over 20%. And since that project finished about 3 months ago, we've now improved it by 40%. So this is how fast things are moving. A lot of people say, you know, I hear that quantum's 10 years away, and I say, well, it's not actually. There's already stuff happening now. You're falling behind. Sometimes I have to go back to my, you know, early days and again date myself. It's like trying to explain the internet to somebody 25, 30 years ago. They, you know, no, yeah. The world is filled with, you know, comments like it'll never happen or it's going to be decades away. And I can look to the internet, and I can look to even, you know, Mr. Watson of IBM, who said we only need about 6 computers in the whole world, and that's all it. And Bill Gates said, no, we don't. Everyone's going to have one on their desk. So there again, there's a lot of hype, a lot of hope. I really keep tabs on where things really are and what you can get done now, because you know, we're not. There's a lot of hardware companies, and we're hardware agnostic, so we keep track of what all the hardware companies are doing and saying, because that's important to us as a software development company. And we have relationships with all the quantum machines in the free world. So we're in constant contact, and we use many. We're agnostic. I mean, we will take the best hardware to address a client's problem. So I don't know if that
we're coming across a lot of people, everyone we speak to in the quantum area at the moment, they're all talking about hacking now and harvest later. You're obviously seeing this because you seem to be very close to this.
Yes, there's a great phrase that a very senior tech person in a major US bank, and he and I are friends, professional friends. And he coined a phrase, or stole a phrase, and I heard it for the first time about 18 months ago. And the phrase was simply harvest now and decrypt later. And I said, Peter, what the heck is that? Yeah. And he said, well, Bob, they sneak in, they grab a copy of your data, and they, you know, go out and they clean up their fingerprints and any other evidence they were ever there, and they park it, waiting for that quantum algorithm and machine to be able to decrypt it. And so I say, well, that could be years away. And he goes, yeah, but even 2 years or 3 years from now, there's going to be relevance in that data. Social insurance numbers don't change. Credit cards,
especially in finance and health.
Correct. So you know, and the world is filled with stories on a daily basis of so-and-so's been hacked. And there's so many great cybersecurity companies out there. And it's a little bit like, you know, the bad guys have got tons of money, and the cybersecurity people have tons of money, and it's a race. You know, the bad guys figure a way in, they plug the hole. And they may even add a little more robustness to their cybersecurity. I mean, I've talked to this one gentleman, Peter, down in the States numerous times, because that's his job is to protect the bank. And he says, Bob, I have moats and walls and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, here's a question for you. Do you have an intruder detection system? And he looked and he said, what the hell is that? And I said, well, it's like a silent tripwire. The bad guys don't know they've tripped it, but you do. And I said, it's not to replace anything, it's in addition to. So once the tripwire goes, using a quantum inspired approach, which is what caught their attention, I presented that solution to them last week, and they were like, this is fascinating. And so we are not a cybersecurity company at Multiverse. We solve real problems, but this particular solution that we've created and we need to do more research on is pretty exciting.
And
I can't tell you much more on how we do it, because that's a secret sauce. And the other part is, I don't really understand some of it. I worry about things I concern myself with is, okay, give me the basics of what it is and tell me how this benefits companies. What's it going to be able to do that we currently cannot do or cannot do well or fast?
And that brings us to our question about some of the multiverse computing solutions in finance. So we have risk management as an area. We have portfolio optimization. Could you go into some of the different areas, specifically in finance, where it's been really exciting working on these solutions? And maybe if you can give us, obviously, maybe not identifying who the solutions were for, but some of the actual results that you've achieved up until now. This is really exciting for our audience of inventors and investors.
Yeah, we identified quite some time ago, there are actually 17 use cases for quantum in finance as of now. That list has grown over time, but we're up to 17. And we've already created 3 products, and we have another 5 in the queue coming over the next 6 to 12 months. The first product we ever created, the first solution we ever created, was on portfolio optimization. Being able to help portfolio managers achieve what is known as the efficient frontier in investing. Best return, lowest amount of risk. It's something that our solution can get to in a matter of a couple minutes. That would take, I can tell you a quick story. So I had one big investment bank in South Africa, UK, that looked at it and said, what your solution is doing is solving something in less than a minute that takes us over an hour. And I think your calculation of the Sharpe ratio is superior to ours. That product, I actually do demos of on the current laptop I'm speaking to you from. Wow. So if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be doing demos on portfolio optimization using quantum from my desk, I would have said you were mad. But I do it numerous times a week. People are curious. Well, what's so good about it? Well, A, it's accurate. B, it's really, really fast. And it can optimize even for example, the entire S&P 500 can optimize in less than, I think it's 10 minutes or something. But what does optimization mean? It's balancing the risk. It's figuring out, based on its correlation, based on its volatility, based on its past performance, or even forecasted performance, how much money should I have in each of the assets that are currently there? And maybe that means I buy more of something and sell more of something else. I mean, portfolio managers are always trying to fine tune and tweak. They look at fundamentals, they look at technical, they look at where's the market going, they look at a lot of variables. And And the nice thing about quantum or quantum inspired is it's very good at looking at many things simultaneously. And this is why it's so much faster. And people say, why are quantum machines so much faster? And I said, well, look, quantum machines, there's two quick analogies I like to use. One is finding the needle in a haystack analogy, which is your laptop will find a needle in a haystack in the back of a pickup truck in about 2 hours. It'll go one straw at a time until it finds it. A supercomputer will find the needle in a large lake. I use Lake Ontario as an example because it's a very large part of the Great Lakes system. It can be any lake, Lake Como, in about 2 or 3 hours. Okay. Quantum computer with the right software can find the needle in the Pacific Ocean in less than 3 minutes. And then I just say, what do you think that would mean for your organization? And he goes, okay, but how? And I said, well, I'm not getting into what a qubit is and how it works because I'm not a quantum physicist. But here's another example which I think will make it clear. If you give a 3-dimensional maze as big as the Taj Mahal, for example, so 3-dimensional maze, the size of Taj Mahal, or Versailles, or Westminster Abbey. A supercomputer will try each route through that maze until it finds the right one. It'll try one at a time until it finds it. Now, sometimes it'll find it earlier, but sometimes it won't. Quantum computer with the same problem will try all possibilities simultaneously. How does it do it? Haven't a clue. That it does matters to me because I've seen it, right? I've actually been inside a quantum machine. Couple of them. I've seen Xanadu. I've been in a D-Wave one, and in IonQ, I've seen some of their stuff, and it's just we have so many bright people in the world. It's young people. It's just amazing. But anyway, let's stay on topic.
So you've really, I think, done a beautiful job for our audience in explaining what problems quantum computing is great for, or is great, or is perfect for to use to solve certain problems. Because of course, there are other problems that supercomputers will do absolutely perfectly well for us. And again, I really want to place the focus on the software. You're able to use quantum inspired and also quantum computing software, right from your own laptop, which is incredible. It means, you're not stuck to, as you said, because it's hardware agnostic, you're not, in a sense, restricted to a certain type of hardware that exists today. And you're able, which is something very important to us, to show how quantum is solving huge issues right now, that there are real solutions, there are, big wins that are coming from employing quantum solutions. Where do you see this going in the future? You've already expanded in Multiverse from, was it 6 to 100 in 3 years? What other industries are you currently, other verticals are you currently operating in? And what types of problems are you really excited to be designing solutions for at Multiverse Computing? What does the quantum future, let's say 18 months to, maybe 24 months from now, look like according to you? So much of our work is obviously, educating people and empowering them to learn about quantum solutions and quantum technologies, quantum computing software solutions, etc. where do you see our world when it comes to quantum literacy, if we can speak about that, quantum curiosity, and also quantum availability when it comes to maybe some of Multiverse's solutions being taught to some of our youngest and brightest? Quantum education is a really big passion of ours here at Quantum Mogul, and we'd love to see how industry leaders and pioneers are inspiring really the quantum mavericks of our future.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in there, but let me try to knock them off one at a time. One thing I did want to say is that I didn't fully answer your first question earlier about what products for finance. So I mentioned portfolio optimization, foreign exchange trading, which will ultimately move to other asset kinds, other assets that are tradable, and being able to predict before any other software or any other solution, a price change is about to happen. Option pricing, a huge challenge. How do you get proper valuation of an option? And derivatives. I mean, some of the derivatives are options on futures, and my head starts to spin. And I used to teach a course on options and futures, and I had my licenses to trade those commodities. So there's that kind of thing. I say there's 5 more financial service oriented products coming. But these are things that people can literally buy and use with some tweaking if they wish. But a lot of companies start with proof of concepts. We want to try this out 4 to 6 months, a small sum of money, relatively speaking, help us begin to get educated. So we use POCs to educate the staff at the company.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. So, but back to your what other verticals? We discovered, or I guess energy companies discovered, that some of the algorithms we were using in finance were applicable with some slight tweaking to some of their concerns around energy grid optimization. Because it's all about optimizing stuff. And how do you smooth out the price and the energy demand of a grid system? How do you where do you put wind turbines for maximum value? Where do you put solar panels for maximum value? How do you optimize a battery so that it holds the maximum charge and lasts longer and has more, can do more cycles? That's one area. So energy, anything to do with energy, production of, management of, the ability to help move the planet to more net zero, if you will. There's a lot of exploratory work going on. We're members of a couple of consortiums around energy, around car manufacturing of electric vehicles. We got into the manufacturing sector, I think was our second or third customer here in North America with one of the world's largest parts manufacturers. They wanted to try something as a proof of concept, and so they picked defect detection in the assembly of clutches. Well, clutches are gas powered, and they're getting out of the gas power industry. They're more EV, but they thought it was the perfect proof of concept to see, could quantum vision, could quantum and quantum inspired reduce the amount of defects in their production? And the quick answer was, oh yeah, 60% better detection, which means less defective parts going out, having to be recalled on under warranty, without replacing any of their cameras or sensors. It was really about the ability of quantum and quantum inspired to pick up on anomalies that and in a faster, better way. So manufacturing, power, logistics. I've got, it's the classic traveling salesman conundrum. I need to get to these 30 customers in this period of time. But, companies approach us and say, we got to have better use of our trucks. We got to take into account traffic and weather and all these other variables. How do we deliver our products and services to our clients in a more fuel efficient way, in a less costly way? I mean, even down to exploring what are called in the airline industry tail assignment. I need to have certain planes in certain places based on loads. I need to have crew. I need to have fuel. I need to have all these things. It's a ton of variables. And a lot of them are using supercomputers and they're doing an okay job. But we've also seen many situations where airline networks break down under stress. Maybe it's due to weather, whatever, or labor strife, whatever it could be. But coming out with more and more fuel efficient planes is great, but there may be other ways that quantum can help optimize that even more. So in the health science area, I don't know it well, but my understanding is that there's a lot of data being created, especially in the ICU, about a patient, and not all of it. It has to be ingested, and then it has to be massaged by the software to say, this is what this patient needs or doesn't need. One of the things that we're exploring is the notion of giving the ICU people a heads up that patient over there is in danger in the next few minutes if you don't do something. And I'm going, how the heck does that work? Don't know, not sure. But it's being explored, and that's the fun part of working in a company like Multiverse. We're getting really real world problems brought to us with a simple question: could you do anything? Is it always yes? Of course not. There are things that are unknown. But there are clients that say, do you think it's possible? And we say, look, let's break this into two sections. Let's do feasibility study first. Before we jump into a POC, let's see if it's possible. And we'll tell you if it's not. And then we're done until quantum hardware catches up. So the quantum hardware thing, there's some great machines out there, and they use different modalities to solve different kinds of problems. There are great computers for example, chemistry, creating new chemicals that are, perhaps more ecological, but do a better job. I mean, and I don't know anything about that part of the world. We don't deal with that, but we're big on optimization. We're big on helping people solve real problems, but chemistry is not something that we've gone into as yet. Doesn't mean we're not going to, but there's other machines, like, for example, and I got to plug a Canadian machine because it was one of the first, D-Wave, approached the market and said, we think optimization is what is the first thing companies are going to want. So they built a computer with a modality that is designed for optimization problems, which is a different kind of machine than what creates new chemistry.
Yeah, and drug discovery and that type of thing. This is really
Right.
so fascinating because it's really mind-boggling the amount of problems that quantum technologies can solve. And I love how that you're showing that at present, the industry is really looking at, let's create specifically for the problems we've identified here, and let's get a result in this area. Let's, really, show the world what we can solve in this specific area. And then, let's configure our solutions again to solve other issues. And the wonderful thing about science is a lot of times what you think is an error or something you've discovered, this happens all the time in medicine. You might have a drug that treats a certain condition, and later you find it's actually great for another condition, right? So I love in a sense, where quantum is right now, because one discovery and maybe one optimization result inspires someone in a very different area of research to find a solution, maybe using a similar algorithm, right? But applied to a different outcome. So it's really, really exciting to hear about the verticals you're currently involved in with multiverse computing, and also to know that, in a sense, curiosity has no limits when it comes to the new problems that that industries are approaching with to find quantum solutions with them, and to develop quantum computing solutions together with them. So those are really exciting partnerships on the horizon. And I just wanted to go back to what advice would you give younger people who are passionate about quantum and who are looking to get into the field of creating quantum solutions themselves? From your own interest in quantum, what are the biggest key pieces of advice you'd like to impart?
Well, I've been drinking from a fire hose for a long time, and trying, for me as a non-deep tech person, I look for stuff that is understandable. I leave the other stuff to the PhDs, but there's a guy named Brian Lenihan, who's founder of the Quantum Strategy Institute, and I think he's been on your show, or you should, yeah. He's written 3 books. Quantum Excellence, in my mind, is the best one to start with.
Yes.
I read Quantum Boost. I found it very technical. If you like the technical, that's a great book. Quantum Excellence tells wonderful stories about all the various things that quantum's already doing for companies, and gives real life, use case stories. On the Shoulder of Giants is a fun retrospect on quantum. Everybody thinks quantum's brand new. They've been messing around with quantum for 40 years. We've just now gotten to a point where this thing is actually real, and it's solving all kinds of problems, and we don't even know all the problems that it's capable of doing. It really comes down to getting the early adopters or companies looking for a competitive advantage to take a bit of a risk, to do a proof of. Yes, sir.
A question that I would have for you, because we some of our listeners are definitely, and they have come back to me and have said, yes, Grant, we've heard about this, but all of the people that seems to have the money for this is the big players like the banks and governments, and that's all good and happy. And we're also saying on the call, on our interviews, you need to be looking at quantum now. What suggestion would you have for those companies that agree with what we're saying, but don't really have the funds available to them to pump into this?
Great question.
You know what? That's a great question, and I have an answer. All around the world, governments have woken up to this quantum thing, and they are pouring billions into creating and developing their national quantum infrastructure. And we've applied for grants in Europe. We're now working on Canada and ultimately the US, where the small companies can be part of that.
And is this just in Canada? Is this just in Canada?
I think you said Europe as well, did you say?
Oh, UK, new national quantum strategy in the UK was just announced. Europe has upped the game. Canada came out with version 2 about 3 months ago. And the government ministries are all scrambling to say, hey, we got this like quantum objectives that have been set for us. We don't know how to begin.
Okay. Yeah, this is
and
it.
About 2-3 months ago, my email started lighting up in LinkedIn saying, you seem to be somebody who knows something about quantum without talking, in a language I don't understand. Could we just talk about it? And I said, of course. Education is how every engagement begins. I don't try to sell you anything. If you want to find out what it is, why it is, what are other companies doing, why should you pay attention? That's what I'm primarily focused on.
Education is power, yes, and that's definitely one of the big things we stand for here in Quantum Mogul, as well as legacy. It is all about education. I agree with that, but this is a legit question that we have been getting, and this is a great answer.
Beautiful answer.
Is there like, say, for each country, is there websites that we can go to, or we can get connect the listeners to?
Yeah, there's grant programs in virtually. Well, the EU has one. Canada has a massive grant program. The US is even bigger. What's interesting, I found in the US that the first quantum fund set up by government was out of the White House.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but in Canada was probably our first quantum strategy in capital infusion by government was at least 6-7 years ago. And now they've just they just added another 200-400 billion to that. I mean, governments are worried about, being left behind by other countries. They're worried about brain drain. Right? They're worried about, keeping good quality people. The whole industry is struggling with with finding quantum talent or quantum inspired talent.
This is where education comes back again, and we have spoken about this to other people we've had on the show, that this needs to start at school level, right? So we can educate people on the way up. But that is something that is just simply going to, if it starts now, it's still going to take 5 or 6 years before we would have anything coming out of it. But I suppose what I would like, because we have listeners all over the world, but of course we're based in Europe ourselves, right? But that doesn't make a difference. What I would love is if we had maybe some links that we could actually have for our listeners, because there is some genuine people who wants help, and if there is help out there, this would be brilliant,
Right. So there's a lot of self-study courses, introduction to coding in quantum. There's different programming languages, Python, Qiskit, and others that they can learn about without going and taking a PhD. They can sort of dip their toe in. I mean, a simple search, education for quantum engineers. I mean, or if you want to learn about programming with quantum, I bet you get a whole pile of results. I've never personally looked, but
I have, and there are a lot of searches. What is really exciting is there are all sorts of programs coming out now for people in high school, but even in middle school, to understand quantum concepts and then understand quantum algorithms and quantum programming. So that is existing now.
And the links that I would be talking about as well is for the grant programs, right, that we could access. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the government of most countries already have a website set up. If you were to be in the UK and you wanted to get a quantum grant in the UK, there's all kinds of companies that will help you do it, or there's a way to get to the government site that that will direct you on how to apply. Like, for example, in Canada, there's a thing called canadabuys.ca. It's actually run by the government. It's a procurement site, but they put up a list of things that they would love people to engage with, right? So, I mean, what I say to companies, look, we do all that work. We have grant application people. We work with the grant ecosystem. If you really want to get into quantum, but you can't afford to do it, do it all yourself, like the big conglomerates. Let's talk about what you're trying to do. And if we can find an applicable grant program, we go in together. we go in together.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's-
I love how multiverse computing is,
Yeah.
is really creating those types of leverage partnerships for those visionary businesses that may be smaller, but will definitely define the future. And that you can work to, scale the solutions that you co-create together. So that is fabulous that you have those types of partnerships.
Well, we like to be in the education business here, but we also like to be in the solutions business. to
I'm
help.
all about solutions. Like if
Yes.
if this isn't going to solve your problem, then
Yeah.
I mean, I said I help companies figure out what is the best use case.
Okay.
Because they'll go, they said we don't know how to start, and I said, well, let me ask you a quick question. What's keeping you up at night?
Yeah.
What's keeping your CFO or your CTO or your CEO? What's keeping them up at night?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, well, that's a big question. I said, yeah. But here's the kinds of answers I generally get. And they go, yeah, that's a problem. Or they say, oh no, we use a supercomputer, we're doing well. And I said, so how long does the supercomputer take to solve this problem? Well, not long, like overnight. I said, what if you could do it in under 5 minutes? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a new
Tell me
conversation.
more. Right? Tell me more. So it's one of those things that you asked earlier about where's the future of quantum. The future of quantum is coming at us really fast. I work every day to stay on top of things that matter to the verticals that I cover. And I'm astounded in a very positive way at how the hardware manufacturers are advancing their product. What scares me is the ones that I'm not hearing about in non-democratic countries. The bad guys in the world. I won't name countries, but I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. Everyone is trying to do this thing called quantum supremacy. Okay, that will that happen? Quantum supremacy, what's the definition? It's better than a supercomputer. Okay, well, some quantum machines are better than a supercomputer in certain cases. But right now, supercomputing and quantum together, the hybrid solution is getting incredible results. So it's a nice intermediate step. Will quantum machines replace supercomputers? Absolutely not. If I'm commuting, here's an analogy because I love analogies. If I'm commuting from here, if I'm driving to the commuter train station, which let's say it's 2 kilometers away, I'm not going to buy a Ferrari for that trip. Right? There's going to be more practical utilitarian solutions. And so I see a future because quantum, all our solutions and all the quantum machines are accessible via the cloud. Buying a quantum computer makes no sense. And there's gateways that a number of firms have built, and I don't want to plug everyone because I'll miss somebody, but there's ways to go in through a portal and go to 5 or 6 different quantum machines. Depending on what you need, right? And you'll see more of that. Cloud computing is accelerating. It even took me a while to sort of wrap my head around my data isn't actually on my PC, it's somewhere else. Do I trust that?
Yeah.
I like backing up my own PC every once in a while, but anyway, that's another subject. But where's the future going? It's going to be a world where access to quantum is ubiquitous. You will be able to, as I am now, plug into a quantum machine and solve a problem. You don't need, supercomputers are still going to be valued because there's no point using a Ferrari to go, to the commuter station. So I see a future for both. Give the really hard stuff to the quantum machines. My fear with quantum machines more than anything, my only fear is, sorry, great advantages coming. My fear is this whole notion of the threat that they can decrypt even 256 encryption and other kinds of encryption codes in a matter of seconds. How far are we away from that? I asked the question of Roman Orris, our chief science officer, and he said, Bob, it's not about if, it's about when. And I don't know when. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? We just don't know. And my belief is that we have to assume that there are bad guys in the world that are already working on it and may even have it by now. I heard an interesting announcement by a company that said, we now have a quantum machine that can break bank decryption, banking encryption. And I thought, no, you haven't. Because if you had, you wouldn't tell anybody. You just go.
You keep the advantage.
You just go get the money, right? So there's a lot of false hype out there, and I spend some time, not a ton, trying to separate the hyperbole from reality.
Yeah.
And I try to not position quantum as some silver bullet today, but it is something that if companies are not paying attention to it, investing in it, or as an investor looking at what's the next interesting technology that they should be paying attention to, quantum's got to be near the top of the list. I mean, there's quantum, there's blockchain, there's cryptocurrency. I don't even know where cryptocurrency is going. I've always believed if I don't understand something, I won't invest in it. So I haven't bought any cryptocurrencies. The Bank of Canada project on cryptocurrencies is fascinating. And when the paper comes out, I mean, I've seen the draft, and it's not a difficult read, but good on them. And a lot of central banks are doing the same. What's it going to be like? How do we simulate a world where we have our own Bank of Canada cryptocurrency, for example? I mean, the US just announced they're going with a US crypto dollar. It's coming, right? So that's another trend. And I think, we got 800 or more cryptocurrencies in the world. That's more than the number of hard currencies in the world. How's that all going to work, right?
Yeah.
Clearly we may come down to maybe there's 4 or 5 in the entire planet, and then we're all using, and then that's an easier thing to work through. But there's a lot of very, very interesting stuff coming down. And for an investor that's not looking at quantum, you ought to pay attention to what's happening. That and cybersecurity, blockchain, to me, are the big technologies that are coming, that are here in most cases. But it's like anything, you talk about starting a company, is the thing called the hockey stick. I don't know if you know about the hockey stick, where you go along, and then suddenly, bam. My concern is that that's what's going to happen, and people will be caught off guard, and they'll go, didn't see that one coming. Well, again, if you're to believe a guy who's immersed in technology at a very deep level, which is the Multiverse founding team, brilliant people, they saw this coming, and there's things they're not even telling me yet. Right? I'm sure, right? Like there's just so much. I mean, I go to meetings and presentations, and I listen to my colleagues, my very bright young colleagues speak, and I just go. But yeah, back to education. Lots of online courses. They can at least get a feel for it. High school, I think they've got to start talking about it. Universities are bulking up their stuff. I mean, you've probably heard of in Canada, there's a institute called the Perimeter Institute, which was started over 10 years ago by one of the founders of BlackBerry, funnily enough. And when I first heard about it, I thought, what the hell is that? Why is he doing this? Quantum research? What? And here I am 10 years later. Right? So it's like, you know, there was a lot of very prescient people 10 years ago. And what those people are now saying is both exciting. I wouldn't say it's scary, but like any new technology, there's ethics that have to be brought into this discussion. There's a lot of hype on AI. ChatGPT is marvelous for most things, but not all things.
Mhm.
Quantum is good for many things, but not all things. So it's overwhelming at times, which is why I think people reach out to me, because I kind of sift through it and get to the meat and potatoes of it. This is what you need to pay attention to. If it can fix a problem today, why not
Mhm.
gain a competitive advantage? If you're serious about going to a net zero world, why wouldn't you use the power of quantum, even as it exists today, to solve some of the problems that you can't solve now?
We love this, and thank you so much for sharing just so generously with our audience when it comes to how quantum can solve problems and is solving problems right now, how it's optimizing problems that we've had for a long time in industries, and also how quantum is set to explode and actually change how we solve even more problems in the future. Thank you for also sharing what you believe the dangers and also exciting possibilities are inherent in our quantum future. Again, for our audience, this was Bob Dameron from Multiverse Computing, and we just learned so much from you, and it's been a real honor to have you on the Quantum Mogul podcast today, Bob.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for your time. I could go on for hours, as you've no doubt figured out. But anyway,
it looks like we'll have to have you back on the show. There are so many amazing topics that we can talk about. So to
absolutely.
all of our viewers and listeners out there, thank you for being quantum passionate, quantum curious, and always, as always, Quantum Mogul exists to bring you the best in pioneering the future today. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.